don't think you need to be an expert pundit to know that one area of the pitch West Ham were massively lacking in last season was the centre of midfield. We saw it time and time again, didn't we, where teams were absolutely cutting through us too easily, time and time again. And these were teams with more physicality, more legs, more pace in the middle of the park. And it's one area of the pitch that Graham Potter and Kyle McCauley are going to really have to strengthen this summer, no matter what happens with ins and outs. We've obviously heard a lot in recent days about selling before you can buy. We're potless. PSR issues, cash flow issues, whatever the issue is, we've heard a lot about it in recent times. I think, again, Mark's going to talk about the potential cash injection later. But either way, we have to resolve this issue this summer, because too often last season it was the main problem, and it was the main reason we lost games. It's very often the case in football. If you lose the midfield, you lose the game. And we just don't have enough athleticism and physicality in the middle of the park, all round the pitch really, but particularly in central midfield. And it's not for quantity, is it? We've got plenty of players that can play in that position. You think of Thomas Souček, James Ward-Prowse, Guido Rodriguez, Edson Alvarez, Paqueta if he plays a little bit deeper. And then you've got two younger players, Potts, who's obviously just come back from a loan, Orford, who may go out on loan this summer, but that still remains to be seen. So you've got 7 players that can play in sort of those two sort of central midfield positions. If you're playing a 4-2-3-1 or even 3 at the back, you're going to have 2 sort of central midfielders, if you like. And we've got 7 players that could fill those positions, but I don't think any of them, I don't think Graham Potter is sure on who his best 2 would be if we had, let's say, Sunderland game was tomorrow. I don't know if he knows who he would play in those two positions. It's still a lot up in the air, and potentially as well with players going out. Edson Alvarez has been long linked with a move away. Thomas Souček continues to get links as well. Even today, Burnley have apparently interested. Paquetá, dependent on what happens with the hearing, he might go. Guido Rodriguez, you wouldn't have thought would stay for another season. I'm not too sure, but haven't heard too many links with him. But I can't imagine that West Ham will want to keep him given his performance in the first season. So there seems like there's going to be players going out, but we're yet to see that happen and movement on that. But we are seeing links come through about players that we have interest in, and no more so than Harvey Elliott, who's a sort of a fresh one coming out yesterday or day before. Talksport journalist named us as one of the sides interested in him, along with a couple of other Premier League clubs. Now, there's no shock there's interest from Premier League clubs in Harvey Elliott. I think he's a really good footballer, offers a lot to a team, very good on the ball, technically brilliant. And I would be surprised if Liverpool really wanted to sell him. Now, I know Liverpool have obviously spent a lot already this summer. They've brought in a lot of attacking players in Florian Wirtz, and they've got Szoboszlai, and they've got other midfield options as well, Curtis Jones. So they're certainly not lacking in that area of the pitch. But Harvey Elliott, when I watched him last season, coming off the bench in many occasions, was actually the catalyst of driving Liverpool forward and getting on the ball and creating problems. So I'd be surprised if Liverpool would let him go. The TalkSport journalist did say that it would have to be at the right price, and you would think that would be upwards of 40 million, which is a lot of money given we're potless. So it feels very loose at the moment, the link with him. But he is obviously an incredibly gifted player, and one that I would like to see come into West Ham. I can't lie, but does he solve the problem of the physicality at this moment in time? No. Would he come in if Paqueta is going to stay? Probably not. So one to keep an eye on, but it seems very loose at this stage with Harvey Elliott. One that seems a little bit more concrete is Onyedika. Now, I might be butchering that name, but I think that's how you pronounce it, Onyedika, the midfielder from Belgium. And Mark's talked about him before. There's definite interest there. Now, X has said that there's come out and denied that there was a concrete offer for him, because that was sort of doing the rounds, I think, last night, that there was a concrete offer in for Onyedika and for Musah, who I'll come on to. But X has said that's not the case, but he hasn't. The way the wording's come out about the two players in Onyedika and Musah, it suggests that there is actual solid interest in Onyedika, because the Musah one is one that he sort of just battered away and said that the source has said that he's not even sure where that link's come from. It's come out of nowhere. There doesn't seem to be any truth in it. But he didn't say that about Onyedika, which suggests that there is actual interest there. And we know that. We've seen that before. We've heard that before. And I think it's us and Everton at the moment in pole position to sign him. But yeah, we need to get a move on because plenty of clubs are going to be interested in this sort of player. He's at a really good age of 24. He offers a lot in terms of what we're lacking in that middle of the park. So this is one that I think is could happen. We could see some developments on, but again, could, and all this kind of if buts and maybes that we're waiting on because we haven't seen any offers for our players yet. It's a little bit frustrating, or it's very frustrating at this moment in time. But I do think Onyedika is one to keep an eye on. Unlike Musah, because like I say, that one has been quashed and said that there's no real truth in it. It's just maybe a bit of lazy journalism to link us with him. Again, he's a player that would offer us a lot in terms of physicality. He's very quick, very mobile in the middle of the park. Obviously got some really good experience at AC Milan. He's come from Valencia as well. So I think he's got a lot of pedigree there. But obviously, if there's no interest in him at this stage, maybe not worth talking about. But for me, like I say, if you were to ask me, like, what one position would you try and solve this summer if you're going to spend most of your money in one area, it would be central midfield. I think it's the most obvious position where we are really lacking. And despite us having lots of players that can play there, I'm not really sure one of them is perfect for central midfield. And I think if you had one, you can get away with someone else, if you see what I mean. Like, I think if we had a top midfielder come in to play in one of those midfield positions, and you had Souček next to him, or Alvarez, or James Ward-Prowse, I think that would make them look a lot better all of a sudden, and it would give us a lot more going forward and defensively. But at the moment, we're kind of dealing with like Ward-Prowse and Rodriguez often paired up towards the end of the season. I just think there's such a lack of legs in that midfield. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's one that I really hope that we do resolve, because many people will talk about the striking position, and rightly so. We've literally only got Fulkrug. It looks like Antonio, a deal can't be done, and Antonio will leave the club. We definitely need pace on the wings as well in terms of the left wing. If Somerville's not going to be about, dependent on his injury problems. There's still the issue about right back and replacing Vladimir Sufal. There's the issue at left back. Emerson seems to be on the move, and we would need to replace him. Still need to get another goalkeeper in. So there's lots to be done. But for me, that central midfield position is pivotal for us having a good season. And I think I'd go so far as to say, if we do not strengthen that position, if we go into the season with the same players we've got now, or maybe a couple less, say Alvarez moves on or Rodriguez moves on, and then we go into this new season with the same names as we've seen last season, we will massively struggle and definitely be in a relegation battle. It's just so key in the Premier League. You see all the clubs that are playing really well. You look at Nottingham Forest, you look at Bournemouth, you look at Brighton, Brentford, Villa. They've got legs in midfield, they've got physicality, they can get up and down the pitch. And they've just so many teams have bullied us. Like I say, particularly when we've come up against teams where we are the onus is on us, particularly at home, to get on the ball and open up. We just get countered on so easily, and that is your midfield. That's your midfield not being able to cope with the pace of the opposition. And I think we saw that far too often last season. So for me, it's the key position. We need to get that solved. We need to bring someone in who's young, got a lot of pace, got a lot of physicality, can hold his own in the Premier League, and it's going to be a difficult position to fight. But fine, they don't grow on trees. These players, they're few and far between. So we're going to have to really try and find one, and maybe Onyedika is the answer to that. But again, there's always going to be risk in buying these players from leagues like Belgium, because whether they'll cope with the Premier League, how they'll adapt to the Premier League, how good they are comparatively to the rest of the Premier League, it all remains to be seen. So it's going to be a difficult position to buy for, but it is something we have to get right. And I hope Carl McCauley has been working on it, because you heard with even all the pundits, some pundits, like I think Danny Murphy said, West Ham's massive problem is they've got no legs in midfield. That is a pundit that probably doesn't watch West Ham too often. And it's so easy to just watch West Ham and see where one of the big problems is. And there's a few problems, but that is one of the biggest. And yeah, I do think if we don't solve that, we're going to be a massive, massive problem next season. So yeah, Elliot doesn't seem to be one that is going to move forward anytime soon, but it'll be one to keep an eye on, just because he's a high-profile name, I suppose, at a high-profile club. Liverpool obviously strengthened already, so maybe they'll be willing to let players move on. And I do think West Ham will be interested if they do so, but maybe not at this stage. And then Onyedika is definitely one that I would keep an eye on, and hopefully we can see some movement on in the next couple of weeks. But until then, have a good weekend, and I'll see you on the next one.